So, what do you imagine will come out of the meeting between Trump and Abbas?
Well, so far, Abbas and Trump have already met. And apparently, Abbas succeeded to convince Trump in some points which the Palestinians find very important for the Americans to understand. This might be good because if we are really aiming at some kind of a peace process between Israel and Palestinians, it is good. However, there is a possibility that Abbas actually tries to deceive Trump and to convince him about things which are totally detached from the reality as we see it. And the question is, to what extent Trump can sift what is being told by Abbas to him to find the reality versus lies which Abbas might very easily try to sell to Trump.
And what do you imagine will come out of the meeting between Trump and Netanyahu?
Well, they have already met a few times, and I think that they are very much on the same page. Trump, for example, definitely thinks that Israel has all the right to exist in the Middle East, while Arabs have heavy questions about this issue. Trump definitely sees Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Whether he moves the embassy or not, this is a big debate today, because he, I'm afraid, heard from the Arabs that they do not want the embassies to go to Jerusalem. I personally think that all the embassies should be in Jerusalem, and this will contribute to peace. Why? Arabs will give Israel peace if they understand that the war against Israel is finished and they lost it. Only then they will give peace to Israel. By moving all the embassies of all the states in the world to Jerusalem, this will signify to the Arabs that Israel is there forever and they should better give peace to Israel. This is why moving the embassies, not only the American, all the embassies to Jerusalem, and of course recognizing Israel by those countries who still do not recognize Israel, this will contribute to peace tremendously.
If we were talking the day after Trump's visit, what do you think we will be saying about what was spoken about and achieved?
Well, don't forget that the problem between Israel and its neighbors is already 69 years since Israel was established. And you can add to this many more years since Jews started to come back to this country, to this land, their forefathers' land, as of the last quarter of the 19th century. Since then already, Arabs do not want us here. They do not want Jews to have a state. And this is a very deep problem which involves religious aspects and national aspects, historical aspects, cultural aspects, and the Israeli or Jewish Islamic problem about the existence of Israel is a multifaceted, a multi-layer problem, which it's very hard to deal with in a short time, within 1 day or 2 days. As powerful as you are, you can be very powerful, yet when it comes to questions which are involved in this struggle, it doesn't work within 1 or 2 days. It needs, I would say, even generations, until the Arabs and Muslims start to see Israel as a legitimate state. Because, as you might know, according to Islam, Jews have no right to any state. Jews, just like Christians and other infidels, should live under the Islamic mercy. They don't have any right to sovereignty, to statehood, and to self-government. So Muslims really have to change their mindset about Israel in order to give it peace. If Israel is viewed as invincible, this is the time when Israel will enjoy peace. And this is why it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes also an attempt to give Israel the aura and the image of an invincible state by, for example, moving all the embassies from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This is when peace will come.
But let's think the day after Trump's visit. What do you think will be the achievements from the meeting?
Well, I think that the most which Trump can create is a mechanism of talks, meetings, and maybe starting to exchange papers between the sides in order to try to come to a point which both sides can agree upon. It will be hard, it will be agonizing, it will require giving up on many axioms which both sides carry. And if Trump, with pressure on the sides, will continue the pressure, it might bring to some result. However, don't forget that Obama and formerly George W. Bush and formerly Clinton and formerly many other American presidents and other leaders from all over the world who tried to solve the Israeli-Palestinian problem did not have much of success. However, don't forget that many of the problems of the Middle East are also unsolvable. Look at Syria, look at Iraq, look at Libya, Sudan, Yemen, Iran, Turkey. All these problems of the Middle East have nothing to do with the problem between Israel and the Palestinians. Unfortunately, there are some people in the world who think or imagine that once there is peace between Israel and the Palestinians, all the other problems will be much easier to be dealt with. And this is totally nonsense, because there is absolutely whatsoever no connection between the Sunni-Shia problem in Iraq, between the old war between the Iranians and the Saudis, or the struggle or the tension between them. The problems of Turkey between the Turks and the Kurds has nothing to do with Israel. The war on Yemen is actually a war between Saudi Arabia and Iran on the Yemenite soil, nothing to do with Israel. So to think that the Israeli-Palestinian problem, or solving it, will give any key to other problems is more than naivete. It is just not correct.
So do you think Trump can actually achieve anything with these visits to Abbas and Netanyahu?
I think that he has to reduce his expectations. This region is so problematic. The problems of this region are so deep that, look, if he wants to spend 4 years here and trying to solve and abandon America and leave all the problems of America, he might achieve something. Don't forget that President Clinton, spent many, many days, weeks, hours with presidents, with the then prime ministers here in Israel and the Palestinians and others, and did not achieve much. And he really spent so much time, so much effort, and he was much more patient. He was much more knowledgeable about the Middle East with the time, and he failed. So Trump, as a new president who so far has no experience about the Middle East, and thinking not like a politician but as a businessman who wants to cut a deal, I'm not so sure that this is the way how to approach the problems of the Middle East. You need here knowledge, you need the language. If you don't speak Arabic, how can you understand the mindset of the people? How can you understand how deeply in the culture of this region struggles lie, like tribalism and parochialism and religious issues which are involved in any struggle in the Middle East. While in America, they don't know what tribalism is. They don't know what religious issues are. At least in America, religion doesn't play a major role in politics. And here in the Middle East, the culture is totally different. In order to solve the problems of the Middle East, you need to have very, very good knowledge about the deep structure of the mindset of the Middle East. What pushes people, what deters people, what motivates them, what deters them. This is why I think that Trump has or should reduce his expectations and adjust his hopes about the Middle East to the culture of the Middle East and to the time, the limited time, which he has in order to solve the problems of the Middle East.
What will be the difference with Trump to previous American presidents that have been here?
In Hebrew we say he is a new broom, where the hairs of the broom are still hard. So he is now a new broom, to say. And he tries his best with big power, big oomph, big impetus, comes into this arena in order to bring it somewhere better. If he succeeds, I will salute him. However, I have heavy doubts.
Do you think Abbas and Netanyahu feel Trump has the credibility to make a change?
I think so, yes. Every one of them, from his different point of view, they hope to work in a good way with Trump and his administration. Of course, everyone has different achievements to achieve. He needs different goals. But so far, Trump has goodwill, both from Netanyahu and from Abbas. It might work.
Do you think Israelis and Palestinians feel Trump has the credibility to make a change?
The credibility that he really wants to make a change, everybody understands it. The only question is which change and to what direction. If he brings change which endanger Israel by creating another terror state for the Palestinians, this will be something which the Israelis cannot take. However, if he wants to bring a change by making Israel viewed as invincible, by moving the embassy to Jerusalem, this is a change which most of the Israelis will support.
What does he bring to the table that previous leaders didn't?
I think that the fact that he has a clean table is his best tool. He doesn't have papers which were given previously by other people. He is not bound to commitments of other times and other events. He doesn't carry all the heavy burden of being committed to things which were said or aired by other presidents or prime ministers and so forth. For him, it's a new picture. For him, it's a new problem. It might be good because he might find new solutions from out of the box. But it might be worse. I still don't know. Because ignoring history, ignoring interests, ignoring aspirations, and ignoring the culture of the Middle East will make no good to Trump's attempts.
What is the significance of Trump visiting Israel on his first overseas trip, and especially after Saudi Arabia?
I think that it will be good. It actually exemplifies how deeply he is committed to Israel, to the Jewish people, and it will, I think, give him much credibility in Israel, and to extend an ability to convince the Israelis to make concessions which might create a Palestinian state, of course on the Israeli expense, which might, in the time, bring dangers on the state of Israel, because nobody in the world, even Trump, cannot guarantee that a Palestinian state will never become another terror state, either by elections, as happened in 2006 when Hamas won the elections and actually became the leaders of the Legislative Council, or by coup d'etat, as Hamas took over Gaza in June 2007 and created a terror state in Gaza. So, having another Palestinian state, but this time in Judea and Samaria, that's what was called the West Bank, might create another terror state. So, even if Trump wants to do some favors to the Palestinians, I'm not so sure that he should support the establishing of another Arab state, which either find itself like Syria, because the population of the West Bank is sharply divided to tribes, as it is in Syria and Iraq and Libya and Yemen, and this will be another failing state, just like Syria and the others. Alternatively, we can create the emirate solution. In every city, an emirate for the clans of this city. Just like the emirates in the Gulf were also built on clans and clan leaders and clan ethos and clan law. And these countries or these states are viable, much more than Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Sudan, which were created according to Western culture, ideas, and examples as they copied from Europe. The Middle East needs solutions from the Middle East. You cannot solve the problems of the Middle East by using American or European ideas. They do not work here. You have to work with the culture, with the culture which exists in the Middle East. I hope that Trump will understand it, that you cannot force, you cannot impose European ideas, states, or anything which comes from Europe on the Middle East. It will be rejected, just like Syria and Iraq. And this is why I highly support the only viable solution for the Middle East, which is the emirate solution. Every state, every failing state, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Libya, should be fragmented, should be divided to homogeneous units, even if small, yet viable. This will give life, it will give hope, it will end the struggles within these countries. This is why I highly support this kind of thinking about the Middle East, and therefore we have to establish, according to this mindset, a Palestinian emirates, one in Hebron, one in Jericho, one in Ramallah, one in the cities, in Nablus, one in Jenin, Tulkarem and Kalkilia, in addition to the state which already 10 years functions in Gaza, which also based on the local clans of Gaza. And Hamas know very well how to correspond with the clannish society of Gaza.
What does it mean that Trump is visiting Israel after visiting Saudi Arabia?
Just a second. Careful.
I think he will go to Saudi Arabia the 23rd, after.
We are not shooting.
Oh, he was already there.
No, wait. We are not shooting. Just give us 2 minutes.
קודם הוא הולך לסעודיה, בהן השני.
הוא חוזר לפה?
לא, הוא מתחיל שם.
אוקיי.
הוא מתחיל בסעודיה. מוטי הוא די הפתיע, אבל זה טוב.
What does it mean that Trump is visiting Israel after visiting Saudi Arabia?
Well, in Saudi Arabia, he actually going to meet a big gathering of Islamic leaders. It will be a conference. It's not something Saudi, of course he will meet the king, no doubt. But the main or the timing of the visit in Riyadh is actually the conference which he wants to address. And through this, he tries to approach the Islamic world at large. Whether it works or not, I'm not sure, because Obama also did it in 2009, tried to address the Islamic world and totally failed. So I don't know what will be there in Saudi Arabia. Yet, I think that with the time, the Middle East will teach President Trump that in spite of his good wills and good intentions, the Middle East has its own pace.
How important is the issue of moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem?
It is highly important. Not only the American embassy, all the embassies should move to Jerusalem. After all, Jerusalem is the Jewish capital for more than 3,000 years. Many, or maybe all the other capitals in the whole world are younger as capitals compared to Jerusalem. And I see no reason why the world should not accept the fact that we Jews came back to our forefathers' land, we came back to our forefathers' city, capital city, and we reestablished our statehood in this city. Of course, Arabs do not like it, Muslims do not like it, because it is some kind of a challenge to their belief that Islam is the only religion in the world, while here Judaism comes back to life. And this is why they object any attempt of the Jewish religion to come back to life. They consider Judaism to be din al-batil, means religion of null and void, while Islam is din al-haq, means religion of truth. And this is why coming to Jerusalem, or establishing Jerusalem as the capital of the Jews with the embassies, actually brings Judaism to a level of a viable religion, which Muslims can not take.